Do you see a lot of diversity in newsrooms? So I know you said it's increasing.
Mm-hmm.
What is your personal experience?
You
are the diversity. No, that's all right. I have to go there.
Let's get him in. You're an idiot.
I'm sorry.
I'm playing, man. I'm playing.
Yeah.
Now, I'll be real. At The Athletic, the most diverse newsroom I've ever seen. And you see the quality that comes out as a result because you're able to tell a different story.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of What My Best Friend Does, where we talk about what your best friends do so you don't have to. Today, I'm joined by my best friend, the journalist, Rich. Rich, how you doing, bro?
Yeah, really good. Thanks for having me. Really good to be here at last.
Bro, great to have you on the show. So you currently, you're a staff editor, aren't you?
Yes.
Before we get into that, we like to start with a little icebreaker. Okay. What did you want to be growing up?
I wanted to be a footballer.
I
wanted to be a footballer so much. I'm not gonna lie. I wanted to be a footballer from young, from like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
That was like, the dream. Obviously, like most young people, especially from like where we grew up and stuff as well. So yeah, just put my all into doing that. I got to a decent standard, obviously. There's academies here and there.
Did you play with Raheem Sterling?
I did, yeah. Jeez. Yeah, it's the same team as me.
Shout out, Razza.
Yeah, it's a different level of like the quality. This is like QPR, so like
yeah.
I used to play 2 years above me, and he played in that team, and he's 2 years below me in age, and he was the best player.
Wow!
So when you're seeing that in that training matches, you just know he's gonna fly. Yeah, 100%. So yeah, obviously he's done very well. We had a good team. We had a lot of good players who've gone on to do very well. But obviously Raheem is like the world-class talent. Yeah, 100%.
So you wanted to be a footballer. Obviously now you're a staff editor and you're in journalism. Can you talk me through your journey to this point and how that's all come about?
Wow. So yeah, when I left QPR, like it was kind of a thing where my parents were just like, whatever you do it well. So like, you in school do it well, football do it well, kind of thing. So when like I didn't like go on to do what I wanted to do, kind of thing, was like, okay, what's the next best thing where I can stay in football? And journalism was like the closest thing, really, because you get the training ground, you see you watch the telly, you see the newscast, watch the news, you see the journalists and whatever on the papers. So I thought, you know what, that was pretty fun. How do I get into that kind of thing? So yeah, through sixth form, just started writing a few blogs and for a few other publications and stuff. And then I was at uni, set up my own website. That's because you're trying to break in, you're trying to do something different. So the website I set up, we used to shed light on young footballers coming through at academy level. So obviously close to my background and stuff, but it really stemmed from. So you see, when England used to get knocked out of tournaments and stuff, it was always like, oh, we're not producing enough young players, blah 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 blah. And I was like, no, but I know we are. So how can we shed the light on that? Because in the mainstream media at the time, they weren't really doing that. So that was like our little niche. So had a website at uni, grew it quite big. We had about 80 or so writers or whatever.
80?
Yeah, just those people come in, getting on board and whatever.
And what was the name of it? Off the Post News?
Off the Post News,
Jeez.
Yeah. So we'd go to games, youth games. And I think what helped there was because at the youth games, there weren't really press officers there. So you had all this access to players. And obviously they see us and we're, maybe similar backgrounds. I see, a young guy there. I'm like them, so it was relatable. So you start building relationships with players, coaches, agents who are there, whatever. And yeah, you start getting exposure and things like that. And obviously at the same time, you're trying to break into the industry, so you're basically just trying to showcase what you can do, really, getting the stories, interviews, writing the features, YouTube channel here and there, whatever. And then got the break from there. Started working at the Guardian for a bit, at the Mail, and then that was kind of my first steps into kind of mainstream journalism.
Mainstream journalism. Yeah. So a couple of things I want to double click into. First is that, what did you study at uni whilst this was all going on?
I did history.
You did history?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Do you feel like that degree has played a part in what you do now with regard to journalism, or was it just completely separate?
It's a good question. Yes and no, because obviously history is so broad in terms of what you cover, what you study, obviously. But in terms of like the analytical side of things, obviously the writing obviously goes hand in hand with what you're trying to do, and like, you know, working with sources and, you know, trying to make sense of what's in front of you, basically. And I guess, you know, looking back, that did help. At the time, I'm thinking, no, I agree, I do 4 hours a week, like I'm chilling.
Yeah.
But looking back, obviously, it was helpful. But then after that, you have to do like a journalism like course or degree after.
Oh, you do?
So I did that afterwards.
Is that like a master's or what is
Yeah,
it?
yeah, essentially, yeah. You have to be like accredited, basically.
Do you?
Yeah, so you have like the qualification. It's called NCTJ,
NCTJ,
National College of Trainee Journalists.
Okay.
So you do that for a year. Obviously, you don't have to, but that's like the preferred route. So you can get your qualifications. That's where you learn about like media law, or like, you know, just honing your technique as a writer and as a journalist, and learning the techniques of what you need to do when you're in a newsroom, basically.
Amazing.
So yeah, as I say, finished uni, did my NCTJ at a place called News Associates, which is a brilliant place for a trainee journalist to go. Like, a lot of the young journalists you see now have come from there. Like,
We're going to link that in the show notes.
So sick stable. And yeah, just kind of went from there, really.
Okay, and in order to get that qualification, obviously you said it took a year. Is it a bit like uni where you study for a year, you take a final exam, they give you like merit, distinction, this, that, or how do you actually get that accreditation?
So there's two strands. You can do full-time, part-time. So when I finished uni, I went into work. I was working in like marketing, sales, whatever. So I did it part-time. So I go to work, do 9 to 5, whatever, and then go and study in the evening. So like 2 days a week. So evening and Wednesday, and it's all day Saturday. Okay. But there was obviously there's a full-time course where it's much quicker because obviously you're there full-time. So yeah, you have like various exams which you need to do, like, you know, reporting, media law, and various other like modules, just like uni, basically. Yeah. There's a thing called Shorthand. Have you seen Shorthand before?
No. What is Shorthand?
So imagine, so I'm talking to you now. Oh, no, let's rip it out. So you're asking me questions. Yeah. So before, there's no dictaphones. You'd have to transcribe it. But if you're trying to transcribe someone talking in sentences, it's very difficult. Yeah. So Shorthand is like a shortened language of writing, essentially. So it's like different, like, it's like basically like symbols to kind of like symbols to signify like the writing that you're trying to portray.
Yeah,
that makes sense? So it's like I learned a completely different language. Like if I was to write it down now, it looks like Japanese, bro. Like it's completely different, and it is really difficult to do. But it's kind of going out now because obviously now I have cameras and dictaphones, so you don't really need it. Don't have a go at me because they still try and push it. But it's like, you know, you're not always going to have your camera or your dictaphone. So it's like, how am I going to get these quotes down? Oh, okay, I might need shorthand to get it down quickly. But obviously, you don't want to misquote people. So you can't always remember what they're saying. Especially like now, we're going to sit down for a bit. You're not going to remember everything. No. So you're going to be, you know, true to shorthand to do that. So yeah, it's all those things you kind of learn, and the kind of tricks of the trade and all that kind of stuff. And then it puts you in good stead to go on. So,
this is sick. This is why we did a pod, bro, because I never would have known that. Yeah. The other question I wanted to ask on that is, obviously with this course, is it something that you have to pay for? Is it something that was like funded by an employer at the time?
I think you can get like funded for like bursaries or things like that, but I just paid for it myself, kind of thing.
And for anybody who's listening, can you give a ballpark of what the course would cost?
Well, back then it was a couple of grand. So you pay. Yeah.
Wow.
But I'll come into that whole thing later of like, and you know, barriers to accessibility. But so obviously working, you're kind of using that to pay whatever. It worked well for me, and obviously, you know, if you want to do it, you're going to find a way to get across there. So
get the fun.
Yeah, exactly. So.
And then the other thing that you touched upon was the fact that you had jobs at The Guardian and The Mail. Boo. No, but with those jobs, were you always specialised in sport, or was it like, I just need a job in journalism, so I'll be following, you know, Dave on the street to see him having a beef with his girlfriend?
Yeah, no, I've mainly it's always been in sports. So yeah, when, as I said, The Guardian, you're on the sports desk, you know, you kind of learn the ropes. That was a more of a work experience placement, to be fair. That was in my final year of uni. And then obviously when you come out of uni, it's like, okay, I need experience kind of thing. So to be fair, I was working at loads of different places. Like I did like local papers, work experience, you know, working at non-league games, for example. Wow. You had the Mail on the desk. And then, so like one week I'm watching like Hayes and Eden, like the local paper in Hayes, which is like where I grew up. And then the following week I'm at Cobham interviewing Jose Mourinho. Because like, you're just trying to
The special one.
The special one indeed. Yeah. Like, so, but that was when I was young. So like, when you're like freelancing, I guess, but you're learning the ropes as well. So obviously, you with a senior reporter or senior writer, and they're saying, do this, ask this, whatever, and you just got to be like a sponge, take it all in. And yeah, that's something that puts you in good stead. So.
Bro, that's
it's
sick.
crazy.
Okay, so that brings us up to today.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you can say where you're at now. If not, people can look at you after. In your day as a staff editor, can you talk me what a typical day or week would look like?
Yeah, sure. I mean, to be fair, that wasn't even the full story from before.
Okay, so let's keep going there,
No, because it can be fun if you want. But just to kind of path it. So it was at the Mail, and then, those don't know, I don't live in London anymore, so I live in Devon.
Yeah.
So I moved to work for a local paper down there. But that wasn't in sport. That was in just like news, entertainment, things like that. So that was like a different learning curve because you're learning the ropes in a different kind of aspect of things.
Bro, can I ask you a question?
Go on.
What news and entertainment is there in Devon? What, two seagulls fighting over
Come on, man. Come on. Have some respect for
sorry.
I'm joking. No, to be fair, when I first thought, I was like, what am I going into kind of thing. But when you're like a local beat, there's so much that's going on. A city like Plymouth, it's a big city, there's always stuff going on. Like, there's crime, there's stuff, like, obviously, like, it's not like London where stuff like that. But there's stuff going on, basically, which you need to be on top of. Yeah. And obviously, you've got the football side of things as well. So yeah, like, but to be fair, that gives you a grounding because at local level, you're on your own. Out to the, like, you've got to sink or swim, basically. And yeah, you just got to make do with what you've got, basically, and show your worth and show what you can do. So yeah, I mean, obviously it's really great. People jump to nationals and that's amazing. But at the local level, that's where you really cut your teeth and kind of learn the ropes. So yeah, as I said, so I was there, and then after.
Okay, so I think the takeaway I'm taking from that is, if you can, make sure you can cut your teeth at a local level, or is it like something that you have to do if you want to get to that national?
I don't necessarily think so. I think obviously if you jump straight to national straight away, then amazing, because you'll have that exposure at the top end, say. But I know a lot of amazing journalists at local level who are probably even better than some of the national guys, just because of like the actual technique of finding a story, writing it, meeting the deadlines, doing it quickly. You can only get that through experience. And there's so many guys, as I say, where I worked with, unbelievable journalists, and could walk into any newsroom in any part of the country or a national paper and be the main guy. Like, that's the level. It's just, again, whether they want to move from there or whatever. Everyone's got different circumstances, but yeah, the quality is high, like, wherever you go, really.
I've got so many questions. I'm so happy you're here. I need to make sure I formulate my thoughts, because I want to make sure that I cover everything. First one is, obviously, when you're looking at, tabloids or, whether it's the Athletic or wherever, there's stuff posted every day. When you're working at the local level, when you're working for these big corporations, how often did you have to produce content?
It's a good question. It depends on the business model of where you're working. So, again, saying that though, like at the Mail, you go on the website, you see like they've got hundreds of stories like every day. So, obviously you're there, you're kind of churning stuff out, basically. It kind of gets a bit of a bad rep. We call it Churnalism. Like, you're literally churning stuff out.
That's a good journalism.
But it's like, sometimes it's not like even your own content. You might see something on social media, and then you might write 300-400 words on what you've seen online, which is good. At the end of the day, it generates the page views and whatever, and they're under pressure to generate the page views, because obviously that comes into ad revenue, right? And the same at local level as well. So really, like, tough targets got to hit. I guess there you're not really. Well, when I was there, you weren't really churning, you were going out and getting good stories. So they're kind of a combination of the two.
How long would it take to get a good story?
It just depends. Like, again, let's say, for example, it's a Mail, or like when I was at the Metro, for example, like, obviously stuff's going on in football all the time. So you could just pick up stuff on social media, blah, 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 turn it around and put it online, or whatever, like, the story breaks and you kind of whatever. Whereas at a local level, say, because the thing is, you have to meet the needs of that audience, right? So what do they care about? They care about the crime. They care about, are they going to be safe? They care about, even things like the weather. Like, some of the best performing stories come from like, oh, there's a storm coming like tomorrow. And so just like looking at the data, seeing what works well, and then honing down on that. So it's a combination of like looking at data, but then obviously being at the story. So let's say, for example, there's a big accident or there's like a crime scene somewhere. Obviously, people will like wonder what's going on. They'll be messaging like, "Oh, there's something going on here. Like, what's happening?" Like, you're their main source of information, so you have a duty to get to the bottom of what's actually going on. So, as I say, in terms of the number of stories on a busy day, you could do up to 10, 12 stories a day.
Really?
Yeah.
And is that like 10, 12 that are going to get published, or is that you do 10, 12? And then, based on relevance, they might take 2, and then 10, like 8 killed.
No, well, again, it depends where you are, right? But most of the time, it's getting published. So,
really? Wow.
Yeah, as you say, you could be, 10, 12 a day on a busy day. You think about it's like 300-400 words. Like, do it quickly. We would say next one. Excuse me. So, yeah, it keeps you on your toes. Definitely, like, you're busy. But it's worth it in the end. You see, like, you get good page views and good engagement and things like that. And at the end of the day, like, especially, I say, local level, you're serving that community, right? So you see that the kind of proof's in the pudding. Like, if you're doing the good stories, they're coming in. It's like, okay, we can trust these people because they're actually answering the questions that we need. Mm-hmm. And that's why I say that at local level is really important to get that grounding because, as I say, you just learn so much being in that environment.
I know that you're obviously writing like a plethora of stories. Like you said, you might do one on crime, you might do one on the weather, like you've said. Do you find like being at local level, you have some of the same sources that you're using? Like you always get like, source says this. Like, have you got your people?
Of course, yeah, 100%. Like, as you say, just people always. To be fair, people will like message you or like the main Facebook page, be like, oh, this is going on, or I'm going through this, or I'm going through that. Like, can you come and look into it for me? So a lot of the time, it might be like reader submissions, but then it might be a thing where you've seen something and it's like, okay, you've got to make a few calls. Or so just, that's why I say building relationships is probably the key. I'll probably come into it later, but more relationships you can build. Let's say, I'm talking about local level, but even at national level as well, more relationships you can build, the more you can get access to, because it's like, okay, I can trust this person with this information, and then it just kind of builds from there, really. So yeah, you're absolutely right. It's just like someone might come to you and be like, oh, like I don't know,
I can see a guy running down the street naked.
And that's happened before. So it's like, okay, what's going on here? Yeah, so you see it and it's like, oh yeah, he is naked.
Are you working in tandem with the police? What's your relationship like?
At times, yeah, you have to. So for example, if there's like a big accident or like a crime situation, you put call into police, say what's going on. And they have to tell you, they can't fob you off because it's it's public information. So they'll kind of, they'll give you a little statement or a bit of background as to what's going on. And yeah, so the best reporters, say we had like crime and court reporters, they were like really good sources within the police in terms of like, they might get tip-offs or whatever. Like, oh, by the way, we're going to do like a sting on someone, or, there's like dawn, not, they're coming with the big things over the door, yeah? It's like, we're gonna do one of those. Like, come along and see it, kind of thing. So,
they actually do that?
Yeah. I've been in the back of a bully van. So on Black Eye Friday, that the last Friday before Christmas.
Yeah.
Apparently it's called Black Eye Friday. I didn't know this, but it's like a big night where obviously everyone goes out. It's like, just before Christmas, everyone's getting drunk. So I'm gonna come along and see how we operate on this day, kind of thing. And it was carnage, bro. Like, they're making arrests left, right, centre. I'm just there in a van, like, trying to take some pictures. I've got my dictaphone out, like, what's going on? Like, there's criminals behind me, like, shaking the thing. And I'm just there, like, oh.
I'm not with them.
Yeah.
That's so
yeah, it's crazy, man. So it's proper interesting, just like what you throw yourself into.
I've got a story for you.
Okay.
So you should do the exact same thing, but you should do it for Carnival. You should do a Carnival edition. All right, follow the police at Carnival because they always miss. They always miss
stuff going on.
Carnival.
Yeah, it's true.
They always miss report. Yeah, there's been bear arrests. There's been this. There's been that.
Actually, get
but
the
has
truth,
there really when there's like 1 million people on the street?
Listen,
look at yourselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, listen, it's true though. You look at the numbers, and like I say, Carnival, for example, 2 million people. What, a couple hundred arrests? Like, look at the percentages. Maybe to certain festivals, say, you do the maths, you see the.
Exactly.
I'm not going to get into that, but yeah.
Yeah. And that's actually another question for me. So obviously, being in journalism, do you ever look at articles or things and be like, "This is ye," or "This is bad journalism"?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely an honour amongst thieves within the industry. Like, you wouldn't like call someone out kind of thing, or be like, "Oh, this is crap." But yeah, you might look at it and be like, "Oh, don't know why have you done that?" Or, you know, what's going on here, kind of thing. But obviously, if that's on, you know, if it's not a publication, it's like, okay, that's up to them. You know, like if that's what they want to do, if that's what they feel serves the audience. But you got to look at it long term. Like, you know, for a while, the trust in journalism wasn't great in terms of like. I don't know if you've heard of things like Leveson Inquiry, which was like, if I get this right, it was like a massive court case into actually like journalism standards and stuff like that, and just like over sensationalizing stuff and whatever. And the trust was really low. So it's like if people are doing certain stories, that's how they're going to contribute to that lack of trust. So yeah, people are just, it's up to them, but like, that's not me. It's not us.
There's so much we need to unpack. But before we get into it, actually no, we're going into.
Listen, let's dig deeper.
Talking about the lack of trust, this, that, and the other. You said that companies like the Mail get a bad rep. Like, from what I see, there looks like there's a lot of misinformation there. What's the difference between places like the Daily Mail and like the Sun? Because the Sun be posting some wild stuff. Maybe you don't believe that, but yeah, how would you kind of describe the journalism that's happening in those two countries?
You know what? It's interesting because like at both publications, again, to come about trust, there's some amazing journalists there who do good stuff and get good stories. Like the art of journalism, getting a story, putting it out there. Like they're good at what they do. I think when we talk about lack of trust, is maybe, you know, as they say, certain issues which I guess may not agree with or whatever. But it's the same everywhere. Like, for example, like, so I worked at Telegraph. I was there for a year, and I was on a sports desk. So obviously you're focusing on football, whatever. But then obviously you've got the politics desk and the news desk, and they're doing their thing. And sometimes you're like, I don't really agree with that, but that's their thing. Do you know what I mean? So you kind of see it firsthand, like, you know, the kind of, you know, structures they go through and whatever. And I say the actual art of journalism is very, very good. But it's like when it comes to certain agendas and things like that, obviously there's going to be two sides. I'm going to be diplomatic about it. And they're serving their audience, aren't they? Like, you know, those papers that we've named, they're maybe more right-leaning. So they're serving the audience which they're for. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So people on the left or centre may not agree with that. So that's just something you've got to navigate, say. But in terms of like actual journalism, like, okay, sometimes it might be sensationalized, but there are some very, very good journalists there who, like I say, the actual act of journalism, they do it well. But whether people agree with what they say or do, is that for opinion, innit? Yeah.
Do you know what that sounds like, bro? That sounds like a hacker. And do you know why I say that?
Go on.
It's because hackers are really intelligent, but they're putting their intelligence to bad use.
It's true.
So the journalists, they're good with their words, but the way they're using their words, it's not in the best way. That's my interpretation of it. I hear that. My follow-up question to that is, and I'm really putting you on the spot here, so just do what you can. Is there an unconscious bias in the media? And the reason I say that is because if we go back to football, it's like Raheem Sterling, as an example, will be published like his flash. Oh, Raheem Sterling buys massive house for his mum. Like he goes all out, no expense spared. Where it's like Phil Foden, on the other hand, look at darling Phil, blessing his mother who worked so hard to raise him. Like they've done the exact same action, but it is phrased in a way. That's one example. Another example I'll use, and this is crazy again, is like terrorism. So, and this is like more in America, right? Because they have the shootings, this, that, and the other. Whenever something happens with, let's say, somebody of colour, it will be a terrorist act. Whereas when there's like a white man or woman who shoots up a school, it's one crazed person.
Yeah, a lone
ranger. Why are they always depicted as the one crazed person versus a terrorist? So yeah, is there that unconscious bias?
It's interesting you mentioned that Raheem thing with Phil Foden, because when Raheem called that out, I think that was a massive turning point in terms of how things are covered and seen in the media. And it was a kind of a wake-up call to say, are we doing things right here? And by that, I mean, as you say, all the stuff about Raheem, which, again, we talk about standards, like, a lot of the stuff wasn't true. Like, things, he's got, 10 different children of, it was like, that's just not true. Like, you know what I mean?
But there's no repercussions for journalists who post stuff like that, is there?
Well, there should be, but sadly, there's not. But that particular incident was a big turning point in terms of how things are covered and perceived, and in terms of a big reason why that is because lack of diversity in the newsroom and also in decision making parts of the newsroom. So when they're working on a story, and the senior editors are thinking of headlines or whatever, without that diversity there, it's going to be framed in a certain way.
Always.
So if you've got a certain stereotype of someone, you're going to frame it how you see it. Whereas I think now we're seeing it's still got more work to do, obviously, but we're seeing a much more diverse output, especially in senior positions in places. So now it's like, okay, there's a bit more debate over certain things as to, are we going along the right path here by trying to frame it in this way, if that makes sense. Whereas before it was just like, we're going to stereotype you as this flash black boy, and you player X, you're going to be the darling, whatever.
Yeah.
So look, there's still a lot of improvement to go with that, I have to be honest. But yeah, that was definitely a turning point in the whole media. That literally shook it apart, because that was actually a player coming out and saying, look, you're taking the piss. Like, you can't be kind of depicting us differently.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a huge moment in terms of especially football media. Going on about what you're saying about America and stuff, again, it's a similar thing. Having diverse newsrooms will kind of inspire that conversation to say, okay, are we doing this properly? Is it right? Are we going along the right path? And then, yeah, things can change as a result.
Do you see a lot of diversity in newsrooms? So I know you said it's increasing.
Mm-hmm.
What is your personal experience?
You
are the diversity. No, that's all right. I have to go there.
Let's get in. You're an idiot.
I'm sorry.
I'm playing.
Yeah.
Now, I'll be real. At The Athletic, the most diverse newsroom I've ever seen.
Amazing.
And you see the quality that comes out as a result, because you're able to tell different stories. You're not just the same old. You might have, say, people telling stories about their particular backgrounds and vice versa. And that's why you see a big, broad range of content, because there's so many different backgrounds. Whereas, yeah, before you might go somewhere, you're like, you might be the only black guy, might be the only person of colour, and then you've got to navigate that way. And then it's like, hey, do you try and shake the tree to try to say, hey, let's do it this way, or do you just try and fit in and do your thing? Mm-hmm. But yeah, look, it's getting better, but so I can't speak for other places now. I can speak where I'm at, and yeah, I think it's incredible. I'm really proud of the team that they've built there in terms of what we've got there, and obviously the diversity, not just race, but women, of sexuality and things like that as well. It was a whole wide spectrum of it. And as you say, you see that quality come out in the content.
And that brings us nicely, you've mentioned the fact that you are working at The Athletic. I tried to ask this earlier, but now we're at the right time.
Yeah.
Talk me through
Mm-hmm.
a typical day and week at the Athletic. Like, what does it look like?
It's following the news, really. I know it's a cliche that no 2 days are the same, but they're not really, because it just depends on what's going on. So you come in, you have your morning meeting, just talk about, what you're going to cover for the day, what's going on, how you're going to approach it, basically. And then, it's just a case of just getting the content out in the best way possible. I think one thing we do really well is that, we try and take our time with things. So people don't know, we do a lot of like long form content. Obviously, do a lot of news, obviously, as well. So the long form content is analysis, whether it's data, whether it's background, whether it's storytelling, etc. And really just making sure that arguments there are as balanced, as fair, but detailed as possible. Mm-hmm. The same with news stories as well. Obviously, you want to be first to get the stuff out, but you don't want to be first and wrong. So even though there might be something breaking, obviously you're working quickly to get it done, but it's like, it has to be watertight. I'll just go to different sources. Like, generally if 2 different sources say the same thing, it's probably going to be true.
Okay.
So,
would that be your process then?
Yeah, so it'd be very, very, well, not necessarily, it could even be more, but we definitely wouldn't do it on just one, if that makes sense, because obviously, that could be anyone saying it from an agenda kind of thing. So, the processes in place are really good, whether it's news or long form content. So it's difficult to kind of quantify like a normal day because it could change just like that, But that's the kind of general structure. Meet in the morning. That's us editorial. If you're a reporter, you're hitting the phones, you're talking to your contacts, you might be at a press conference, you might be at a game. It just depends on what day it is, really.
I hear that. And as an editorial person,
mm-hmm.
I suppose the thing that comes out to me, how do you ensure what you publish doesn't have any mistakes? Is it like Grammarly Premium? What is it?
Maybe. Yeah. No. Well, it's 2 strands, so it's got to be, obviously the Athletic's paid for content, so like it's got to be high level. So a very rigorous editorial process. Like nothing will just be published straight away. Is read by multiple people before anything goes out. And obviously, that helps with like the quality control of it. It helps with because sometimes someone might write something and you'll be like, you could reframe that a bit better, or could you go a bit balanced, or you might need to speak to this person to get another perspective or whatever. It's a very rigorous process before anything's published. Mm-hmm. So whereas before, I was saying that like with churnalism, where people just putting stuff out, and you'll see it yourself if there are typos or just not very balanced or whatever. It's very different where we are because we try and it's a very rigorous editorial process before anything comes out, and so hopefully, or I think it is anyway, reflecting the quality which comes out. So it's a very rigorous process for sure, more rigorous than I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. But for those right reasons, because it has to be spot on, like whether it's typos, whether it's the actual framing of the argument, whether it's a story. So
yeah. And the reason I say that is because I know you've had to do reports and stuff, and I think when you're churning out, well, maybe you're not churning out, but when you're writing content and you're reading it back in your head, you don't see those things sometimes.
No, exactly.
But I suppose, to your point, it's picked up right in that process where you're giving it to other people.
Yeah.
You mentioned the fact that you can use a lot of analytics, right, and data to back up some of the long form stories. Is there any particular bits of software or places that you go for your analytical data that any aspiring journalists could potentially take note of?
So you got the free ones, obviously, like that. Google Trends, obviously. That one's more for like seeing what's going on at the moment, like what people searching for online. Obviously, you've got social media, Instagram, Twitter. See what's trending. Like that's all there at the drop of a hat, so you can see, if let's say Wayne Rooney's trending, it's probably something that's gone on there. So it's like, but that's an easy win. And then obviously there's like more tools, which can't really.
I don't need to.
But it's nothing like bad or anything. It's just like different tools where you can like, actually analyze, like where. The thing is, it's not nothing extraordinary. Like people probably know this through different softwares or whatever. We can see like, okay, what percentage of the article are people reading, if that makes sense. So like people might get 50% of the way down, or halfway down, I should say, and click off it. So then you're thinking, okay, why is that? and then you tailor your content to kind of meet that need. Like, why they're coming off at the 50% point? Is it because your argument's not good enough? Is it too long? Is it just not engaging enough? So that kind of thing as well, that comes into it, and that's really important. So yeah, so loads of different tools which we use just to kind of see like page views, how long they're staying on it, how much of the article they're reading, and how many articles on the app that they're reading as well. So are they going from article to article, or are they just reading one and going off? So obviously, ideally, you want people to be in it all day. So that's why the content's got to be on point. But
That's mad though, isn't it? I mean, it's so hard because you're competing with, like, your competition is basically every other app.
it's crazy.
It's Twitter, it's Instagram. Because like you said, to your point, you want people in the Athletic every day. Bro, that's wild.
It's crazy.
Talking about wanting people in the app. I keep thinking about Lad Bible, and I keep thinking about Churnalism.
Yeah.
What they do is Churnalism.
Yeah, 100%. Right? Yeah, 100%.
Awful.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not awful, but they just do some nonsense. And it's clickbaity.
Of course.
And it's a lot of regurgitated stuff.
Yeah, 100%.
But it's all just to get the ad revenue. Now I'm just hearing what you said.
Yeah, exactly.
So you just see what it is they're doing.
Yeah. I mean, listen, they're good at what they do in terms of like SEO and all that kind of stuff to rank highly in Google or trend on social media or whatever. Or make things go viral. That's what they're good at. But like in terms of like actual, I don't want to say it's not journalism because it's all part of it. It's all part of the game. You have to be able to rank highly in Google. You have to be able to help stuff go viral or whatever. So that's really important. But you say they might be like ripping stuff off from other places, and then their stuff's getting. So for example, we might do our story, transfer news, bio sign for Arsenal. Yeah. That's our story exclusive.
Nah. United.
Yeah. That's our story. That's our exclusive. Yeah. But if that SEO is not on point or whatever, and as you say, it's picked up, obviously, be picked up by other places. They do it themselves. This thing we've seen there, like, ranking highly on Google, and you're thinking, but how have we done that? That's not your story, but it's just
they do the same thing, but better.
Yeah, well, essentially, yeah. I'm not saying better than Athletic, but I'm saying, like, that's what they would do, so they leverage their kind of Google rankings and things like that. So yeah, it's super interesting to see in like real time. But yeah, sometimes it can be annoying. Like someone's working a story, but then it's like they're taking all the clicks for it.
Yeah, I hear that. You mentioned the fact that you are like you do the long form again. How do you continue to hone your craft as a journalist and improve?
Just by doing more, basically.
Getting the reps.
You have to get the reps in, like, and I think as well where we are, like, the level of journalism, the level of writing is just on a different level. So like where I'm editing it, I'm like, how have you, like, I'll give an example. I hope it doesn't mind me name dropping him, but like James Horncastle, he's our Serie A writer. But the way he writes, honestly, I feel like I'm like running through flowers, bro. Like, it's so melodic. It's just beautiful all the time. And you're just thinking like, that's the level you've got to get to. Or we got a guy called Matt Slater who like does like investigations and like a lot of the kind of financial side of football, which is very, very like, a lot of technical information jargon. But the way he explains it, it's like, it's so simple and easy to read. So it's like, you're just picking up like bits from all the senior writers who've like been there, done it, and you try and put it into yourself as well. But yeah, just by getting the reps in, practice, and then taking the good feedback. Like we've got really good editors who, they say know how to form arguments really well and things like that. So you say you've got to be a sponge, take it all on board because no one's perfect. You know what I mean? Even if you're at the top, there's always people trying to overtake you. So if you're stagnating, then someone else is going to come and be a better writer than you. So yeah, you've just got to just take on good feedback from the right people and just keep practicing and learning.
That's amazing. My only other question on that, is there like any like specific bits of content that you might consume that helps you to formulate words in a way? Like, and have you done any like copywriting courses?
I haven't per se, but I mean, obviously the journalism course was good for in terms of like writing a news story because there's certain techniques and structures which you need to follow to like write a news story as opposed to writing a long form bit of content.
I know what it is.
Go on.
most important thing at the top. It's like the pyramid of, I've forgotten what it's called, but
you're on the right track though. Yeah. And like, you got to get that, who, what, where, why, how, very high up. And the things like that, just get straight to the point. Most important, and then kind of you branch out on it. So like the pyramid kind of thing. Yeah. And then as you say, you just got to just kind of progress from there, to be honest.
Can you share some of the challenges you face when editing sports content? And what strategies do you employ to ensure accuracy, fairness, and engaging storytelling?
So as I say, like for me personally, it's about, so I do a lot of obviously fact checking and just looking at the argument to see does it need a bit more? Have you explained it properly? So you try to have a process in place. So I was like, okay, is it the quality? Okay, just in terms of the basic typos, picture captions. That's a big one where players get miscaptioned.
Mad.
And you see it obviously happens with black players, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of the time, it's not. Let me not say that because you should know, innit? Yeah. But basically, what happens? Just going to tangent. So, a photo agency, say Getty or such or whatever, they'll take the photos at the game and they'll write the caption to put it on the system. So, and then you just literally pick the photo from the system to put into the article. So if they've miscaptioned a player or got it wrong, sometimes if you're in a rush, I've not done this by the way, but you might put in the wrong person, innit? Yeah. So let's say you're searching for player X, they put player Y, and people just put it in without checking it. Then it's like, oh, that's not the right person. That's really oh, that's bad. You can't make those mistakes. But that's where again vigorous checking comes into it. People are rushing it out. That's where those mistakes happen, and it's not good. Especially it gets picked up on as we've seen exactly, and that's a madness. Yeah. Just for a lot of rigorous things like that, just checking every single minutiae detail. The detail's the key. Attention to detail. Every little point, every little sentence. And obviously the structure of it as well, SEO, all that kind of stuff. As I say, luckily, because things are read more than once, so I might read something, I might have missed something, but the person after me might pick it up. Yeah. So it's you've always got that safety net, which I think is really important.
You better pray that the Athletic never does a misquote of they better post pictures on point. I'm gonna put this rigorous thing to the test. I'm gonna pay for the subscription.
You've not got subscription. You don't got subscription,
bro.
I walk out of room
You know what? After this, I'm gonna, as long as it's not more.
£1 a month.
Is it £1 a month?
Yeah.
I just feel like paying for new. There's just so much free stuff out there.
But is it good though?
Yeah, let's.
I mean that respectfully. I'm not the other place are bad. Obviously, they do good stuff, but I do feel that you get what you pay for. I even think it's too cheap.
So I agree with you, but sometimes you don't know what you don't know.
Oh, of course.
So they do the tasters where you can read a little bit and then it's pay £1. But the problem is the way social media is these days, and you can listen to this, people at the Athletic. Your attention, you lose you lose the capture. So it's how do you keep people in that journey where they actually pay that £1? Maybe do Apple Pay, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's that's the thing is you've got the concept, but there's obviously the whole operation around it in terms of how do you make it as easy as possible for the customer to pay, and that's stuff that those ops guys should do.
There's people that are getting paid to do that.
Yeah, and it's a good process. You say how many subscribers you've got. 1.9 million for the Athletic alone. That's just for the UK side of things. 10 million altogether. So there's 10 million people who don't mind the journey. Yeah. So you want to build on that.
Do you know what? I'm gonna pay for the Athletic. How about we do this? I'm gonna pay for a year subscription of the Athletic. Yeah. And then the Athletic, you pay for a year of studio fees for the podcast. We got a deal! Oh my God! You heard it here first.
There we go, man.
We got sponsorship, baby. We made it.
I'm gonna get in trouble. Yeah. Spending ad money.
I'm messing around. Okay, so bro, sports journalism often involves covering sensitive topics and controversial issues. How do you approach maintaining objectivity and ethical reporting, especially when dealing with passionate fan bases?
It's a very, very good question because we've seen so many, even in the past year alone, certain players or certain leagues or whatever. Won't go into too much detail, but I think with that, you just have to trust your sources and, as I say, be as rigorous as possible with them. So you have to hit the phones, speak to as many people as possible, get, because there's always, you got one side, B side, well, got A side, B side, and the truth, right? So you've got dig for the truth. And as long as you're balanced with what you're saying and getting to the bottom of it, then you're in good stead. Obviously, you have to, don't just take what people say with face value and give both sides, because that's not what journalism, you have to get to the truth, but you have to be balanced in a way of like, when you're analysing it, it's like, okay, so-and-so has this perspective, so-and-so has this perspective, but this is what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's different to just, which we see sometimes a lot on the telly, for example, where they just have one side and another side just going at it. And where's the truth in that? So it's really important that you say you get a wide range of perspectives, different sources, different backgrounds, and you've got to be straight down the middle. Like, you don't have to give your opinion, but say that this is what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you build a trust. You just got to tell people what's going on.
Yeah.
And you say people might make it very difficult for you, very awkward to get information. People might not be helpful, but that's where it's our job to get to that crux of information.
I hear that, bro. And I've just remembered the question
Oh, yeah?
I asked you before. You spoke about writers and the fact that you're an editor. What is the difference between a staff writer and a staff editor?
So, again, a writer, someone who, they write the content, essentially. You've got reporters, you've got writers, you've got correspondents. It's kind of all the same thing.
So you editing an article that's already been written?
Already been written, yeah.
Okay.
So that's basically the difference, really.
Okay, cool. And do you aspire to become a writer, or like, is that the next step, or is it like a side step, or is it just different skills for different?
Yeah, it's two different strands. I mean, what often happens, or what it depends on the structure of the company, I guess. Like, I've been at places where you have like reporters who then become editors and whatever, because obviously they've had experience in the field, but then they might want to be more office based rather than being out and about, so then they can like show, use the techniques to help the next generation. So there's no like real one direction, really. Like, I've been a reporter, I'm now an editor, but then I still write my own things as well, right? So like, there's no like limit on what you can do. Although I'm editing copy, I can still write a feature on, like I have an Exeter City or Plymouth Argyle or whatever. So yeah, there's no like set thing,
linear thing.
Exactly. Obviously, people might want to be a reporter. You've got junior, senior, whatever. And say with editor, you'd be, junior editor, staff editor, senior editor, whatever. So it's just about the journey you wanna go on.
Okay. And we've said it a few times on this podcast, but obviously you work at the Athletic. We can't talk about the Athletic without mentioning David Ornstein. I hope you don't mind. I have to, because he's a bit of a legend. David Ornstein, is he an editor? Is he a journalist? What's his role?
No, he's a senior correspondent.
Okay.
Like reporter.
Okay.
So yeah, that's his role basically.
And he, it's great hearing you talk about making sure things are right, making sure things are on point, because I suppose for every David Ornstein, there's like a Fabrizio Roma. You know what I mean? Here we go. I'm going to say Fabrizio. Here we go.
Yeah.
What would you say the main difference is between their two approaches to what they're doing? Because they do a similar thing, right? Or you can say no.
Yes and no.
Okay.
Like,
I don't want to get you in trouble, but
no.
Yeah.
I say I don't really know like what Fabrizio's thing, like, how his thing's set up, but I know like with David, like I've not seen a journalist with like that level of like intensity, detail, attention to detail. Like, it's just a different level. Like, I would say, in terms of like story getting and things like that. But what people don't realize is that
is he like the Raheem Sterling of like he just playing the buff?
I see what you mean. Yeah. It's a different level. Yeah.
The same, but in a different industry.
Yeah. Like, it's like Messi, Ronaldo. You're looking at him and Fabrizio, right? But yeah, just in terms of like the detail, the intensity, the sourcing. But what people don't realize is that there's the ones, let's say a story comes out in a second, but that might have taken years of relationship building to form. So the contacts he's got is just crazy, different level, all aspects, players, agents, owners, whatever. The level of detail, accuracy, determination, whatever, it's just on a different level. And I think if anyone ever gets the opportunity to shadow him for a day or whatever, you will learn so much just in terms of the accuracy and the detail and the pace and intensity of it. It's just on another level, which I've not seen before. I don't think I'll see again.
And just on that as well, like the vibe I get from him and Fabrizio is that they're on 24/7.
100%.
Do they sleep?
Yeah, I mean, Fabrizio, he was saying that his like screen time, especially during a transfer window, was like 20 hours in a day on the phone. Always on the phone, WhatsApps, meetings, this, that, the other. And you have to do that. It's just part of the game. Like, to have that level of like contacts and stuff like that, you have to be always on the phone. You have to be. So yeah, that's
to get to that level. All work, no balance. You want work-life balance? Yeah, no NatWest balance.
Yeah, that's the same. But listen, this, you're passionate about it. That's your life, isn't it? So, as I say, I don't know about how their work-life balance is set up, but I know that when they're on, I can't speak for Fabrizio in it, but when he's on, like, yeah, the level is just different.
Okay.
Yeah, it's difficult to put into words, really. Like, yeah, it's just in terms of just the level of quality, the detail, like, unmatched. Like,
wonderful.
But it's basics of just work rate. The people, like I would say, like, don't be lazy. Like, you have to show up every day and, get to the bottom of things. And like I say, the work rate that he's got, so many people can learn from. And that's basics, just turning up, hitting the phones, doing the basics every day. And he does those amazingly well. And that's why he gets the great stories, the great interviews, and so people can learn from that.
I hear that, bro. I hear it.
Yeah.
I heard that.
Yeah, it's different.
Switching it up, bro. The sports industry is constantly evolving, both in terms of technology and cultural shifts. How do you stay ahead of these changes to ensure your content remains relevant and appealing?
Yeah, no, really, really good question. Look, we're seeing now with journalism, we've already seen a shift. So newspapers to online to apps. Now you've got how do you leverage video, audio, like we're doing now, social media, TikTok, all these kind of things. It's about staying on top of seeing what's going on out there and staying on top of that, really. So it's literally just as simple as that, really. Just always got to see what's going on. But at the end of the day, the basics of storytelling and getting stories is like, if you're not good at that, you can have all the platforms and all the gadgets and stuff in the world, your stuff's not going to do well. Or it might do well for a little bit, but is it going to have that long-term credibility and sustainability? So, yeah, the main thing you've got to do is hone the craft of storytelling, getting the stories, doing the right thing in that way. Before anything else, everything should build from those basics, I feel. And yeah, if you're not doing that, yes, you can have all the bells and whistles, but that's not gonna keep you in the game for that long.
I hear you. What would you say is the most stressful part of being a staff editor?
It's just when there's a lot going on, I guess. Like, you might have days where there's 1,000,001 stories going on, plus games as well, and you've got to stay on top of it all and meet deadlines. Especially now because our team's growing like crazy, so that means more content. So before, I think when I joined, it was like, to be fair, when I joined a standard day of like, say, 10 to 6 or 12 to 8. Obviously now it's like, you can start at 8 a.m, you can finish at 10. That won't be one shift, but like, you have different shifts throughout the day.
Yeah.
And it's just about, just like staying on top of the content, that because there's loads that comes in now, and making sure that quality remains high. I wouldn't say stressful, but you just got to be on top of it, really. When only stress comes in, like, let's say something happens, there's a mistake or whatever, and it's like, oh, we've got to rectify it. But I wouldn't say it's stressful. It keeps me on your toes,
And I suppose you love it, right? So.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like work, man. I'm super lucky, man. Like, super lucky to be where I'm at. And yeah, I'm just grateful. So yeah, it doesn't feel like work.
Bro, look, you say you're super lucky. I say, based on what I've heard today, you've earned it, mate. I'm going to tell you that.
That's
I believe the harder you work, the luckier you get. And, like you said that with David Ornstein, right? He's put in years of work to get some of his relationship. Those years that you put in with off the post and everything, it's got you to where you are, bro.
That's very kind, man. Thank you. Just get emotional.
Yeah.
Let's have a drink. But no, thank you. But it's like with anything, though. If your job, anyone's job, you have to put the work in when you're young, and then hopefully the proof comes out.
Life compounds, right?
Absolutely.
That's why, look, catch me in 2 years, see where this podcast is. We've spoken about the most stressful thing. What would you say the most rewarding part of being a staff editor is?
just playing a role in getting really good content out there, really. Like, just, for example, someone might write something and something that's not quite right, and going, just when you're working with a reporter to getting something over the line. And then when you see it published and you see it, it's like, the public or other media outlets are picking up on it or whatever. And it's like, okay, obviously that's the journalist's always work or her work or their work. But it's like, you've played a part in that, in getting it out there. And yeah, that's just, you have that professional pride. It's like, okay, I've played a part in that. Obviously, as I say, it's their work that they've done, and that's their thing. As like, if we can help make it better or take it to another level, then yeah, it's always nice to see. So yeah, especially, if it gets good comments or whatever, then yeah, that's what we want.
Love it. All right, switching up gears again. We've spoken about the fact that you touched upon needing to be a good storyteller. What is another skill that you see among some of the best journalists and people that you work with?
Attention to detail is key. For what I've said before. Did you say relationship building? Have you said that one?
You touched upon it, but you haven't.
Because obviously you need to have relationships to get the sources. Got to be nosy, you got to be resilient, because at the end of the day, you're in the public eye in terms of putting things out. People will give you people might not say very nice things, especially with the tribalism of football. If you're doing a story about a certain club and it's not very positive, the fans might not like that. So you have to have thick skin to kind of absorb that. I'm not saying go overboard. Obviously, mental health is very important, but you do need an element of thick skin, because you are going to have to, push the ticket out a bit. And then just being a decent person. And I know that's basics, but if you're a good person, people buy into you. And as you say, that's where you build those relationships and go from there. That might be in my happy-go-lucky world. There are a lot of good journalists who maybe aren't very nice people, but I think the longevity, if you're just a decent person, people buy into you, then I think that comes out A, in the writing, and two, in the relationships that you build in the industry. So 100%. Yeah, I say those things really: attention to detail, relationship building, being good, and just be nosy, digging, be resilient, because you're going to have setbacks. You're going to have people trying to get in the way, press officers who aren't very helpful, or agents who aren't helpful. You just have to just keep at it.
Find a way. Be
resourceful. Exactly,
bro. And on that note, it's really interesting that you mentioned doing an article on fans and not necessarily getting good feedback. Right, in your job as a journalist, have you ever felt unsafe? You mentioned having thick skin there. Has there ever been a situation where maybe you've had to do something on Millwall, and they're like, Rich, don't let us get Devon, don't let us get XR1 in the cup, we're coming for you, bro.
I'll tell you about Millwall. Yeah, I did a game there. It was a playoff semi-final playing against Bradford. I think this was time ago, and there was a bit of trouble on the pitch, or in the stands, and some of the fans running the pitch. And bro, there's horses on the pitch trying to get the fans. I think this is 1980s.
Yeah.
Stuff, bro. There's horse on the pitch trying to disperse the fans. The fans are getting onto us oh yeah, you write anything negative, we're gonna come for you. Blah blah blah. Because obviously where the press box is, and most press boxes are in the stand. So literally, you might have a fan sat next to you.
Wow.
And sometimes you have a bit of banter with them. Because sometimes they say, "Oh, make sure you get that in your report, whatever." It's you have a laugh.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's yeah, if you do that, we're gonna come for you. Blah blah blah.
Wow.
But nothing's gonna happen in it. They're just talking whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, to be fair, but Millwall is what it is. Do you know what I mean? It's a nice. They're a good club. They look after you well and whatever. I just always remember that game where you mentioned Millwall because of the police forces and stuff. It was crazy.
Do you have a welfare team where if you get some bad messages, you just forward it off to them and you're like?
Yeah, I mean, I've been quite lucky. I've not really had any of that, but I know people who have done. And it's not very nice, man. Because you've obviously got to get police involved and stuff like that. It's very techie. People out there who aren't very nice, but touch wood, I don't get that. I think it's just very fair. If I do something, obviously you have a debate about it, or people might say, "Oh, you're shit" or whatever. And just got to hold that. Also I remember in it, so I always look at it. It's okay, I'll remember that. Yeah. But yeah, nothing ever like
Okay, that's good.
negative.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. Bro, it sounds like being a journalist can be very intense. Do you have any productivity hacks for the listeners?
It's difficult because I want to say like you have to be focused, but if stuff's going on all the time, I think it's just about being able to balance multiple things at the same time. I don't even know if I have a hack for that, to be honest, because it's just I'm just doing it day by day. Do you know what I mean? Maybe if I step back and think about it, I'll do that.
That's fair.
Yeah, it's difficult because the thing is, it's like if you say I'm just going to focus on this, it's like you might miss what's going on over here.
Yeah.
So you need to kind of.
And I think that's actually quite unique to journalism. So I think with a lot of other people I've interviewed, maybe they want to achieve one task and move on to the other thing. But, you know, hearing what you said about journalism, you actually want to have your ear around.
Yeah,
so
100%.
You're productive, but in a different way.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, obviously you have to try and maintain that focus and whatever. But, yeah, maybe if I step back from it, maybe I'll be able to think. But, yeah, I'll just go at it every day.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. We spoke about Ornstein, but in you know, you mentioned the shifts. Would you say that you have a good work-life balance?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. To be fair, they're really good at me, just in terms of like obviously where I live and situation and stuff. Yeah, really good. Yeah, I can't complain.
And once again, you don't have to answer this, but it'd be great, you know, to understand for the listener from like you know, entry level up into like senior. What is like the range of salary that you could potentially earn in journalism? Like, give us a range. We don't need to.
Now, you know, I'll be real. At a local level, like this is why I talk about accessibility, right? Because at a local level, or even when you do work experience, there'll be a lot of unpaid stuff, and sometimes at local level, especially when you're a junior, like techie salaries. So for what you've studied to there, it can be very techie. And that's why I say, if people come from like the backgrounds where they can have that financial support to help them through those initial years, then that's amazing. But not everybody can have that. And that's a big barrier to entry because people are finding that they can't sustain the career because the first couple of years, they're just not getting paid
anything.
No, it's just like not great. Yeah, okay. Exactly. So that's something that I feel needs to change. But at the same time, if they're not making the money to pay the staff, then, you know, it's difficult.
It's self-perpetuating. People kind of do it for the love of journalism.
I think so. It can be a bit of that, like that kind of vocational aspect of it. So yeah, definitely like, especially local level at the start, yeah, it can be very techie. But obviously you go through the ranks and stuff, yeah, you can earn nice salaries.
Okay, cool. So we're going. So he didn't answer the question, but he said techie, which means very bad, up to nice, which means good. Make of that what you will. Yeah, thank you for trying to answer. He's being political. He's being no. I appreciate. I put you on the spot. I put you on the spot. Exactly. Yeah. So you know, you mentioned the fact there that there's a barrier to entry, right? What would your advice be to anybody who potentially wants to get started in journalism?
Just go at it. And I know that seems so simple, but now it's never been a better opportunity or easier to get started because of all the tools we have with socials, with YouTube, with TikTok. There's so many different storytelling platforms where you can just get started. Even the podcast, like, This is journalism. Like we're talking.
Hey!
There we go. Exactly. So just get started. Don't be like what you start with. It's never going to be amazing. That's where you are a year, 2 years down the line. So don't let that hold you back and think, oh, it's not very good. You just gotta get at it. And again, I know that seems really basic, but you have to start from somewhere. You have to just, especially now, like you just have to get at it really. Just and try and build as many relationships as you can. You know, speak to people, make phone calls, make emails with whatever industry you want to go into, and then just try and build that credibility from within.
I love it. Where does Rich see himself in the next 5 and 10 years?
Question. I'm gonna keep progressing, going up the ranks. Just keep improving in terms of just like editorial judgment, what I'm bringing to the team, my writing, and then seeing where it takes you. It could take you in so many different directions. You know, in terms of we're chatting now, do you do more kind of audio or TV stuff, or do you hone your craft in editorial space and go up that way, or do you want to be a writer and go up that way? So I think as long as I can just keep improving in all aspects, like not to be like a master, what's the phrase? Jack of all trades, master of none. You don't want to be that. I want to be master of everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, that's what I'm trying to do at the moment, and yeah, just progress from there really. So yeah, 5-10 years, you want to be at a good level, and yeah,
just keep it moving, keep it progressing.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep moving forward.
There we go.
Keep trucking on.
Yeah, exactly. You want to be at the top of the game, don't you? So,
bro, this has been sick. We're not done yet. But we're almost done.
Nah, listen, we could be here for hours. I'm fine. I ain't got nowhere to go. Yeah.
This has been so good, bro. But we're just going to have... Actually, I really like this question. So we'll do this and then we'll get into the quickfire round. Mm-hmm. Could you provide a glimpse into the future of sports journalism? How do you envision the athletic and the industry as a whole in the coming years?
Obviously, with things like AI, it's something you've got to think about. And like, how is that gonna have an impact on everyone's jobs in terms of like, the processes that are at the moment, and if we can automate things or whatever, things are obviously automated at the moment. So it's like to what extent? But as I said earlier, the whole basis of storytelling is always going to be there, and the machine can't do that for you. It might be able to maybe frame something for you, but the machines are going to give you the sources to do that. So I feel like it's that combination of the two of like building those relationships still and having those sources to get the stories and the content, and how that marries up with the kind of technological advances will be really interesting to see. So to say, when I said earlier about trying to stay on top of those trends and seeing how you can take the game to the next level to improve that efficiency and things like that, I think that's what we'll see, just like super efficient processes where you're spending your time actually doing the job of journalism rather than the whole administration side of things. So I think that would be a big one.
Even more stories, basically.
yeah. But not churn.
Yeah. Not journalism.
Exactly.
Rich, bro, thank you so much. We do have a quick fire round to get the listener to know you a bit more. Mm-hmm. Work from home or work from the office?
It got to be hybrid.
Money or happiness?
Happiness.
Favorite day of the week?
Saturday. Football day.
Yeah, love that. Time in a group or time alone?
Time in a group.
Okay. I'm making up one here. Long form content or short form?
It's got to be long form, man.
Got to be long form. Favorite book?
I could plug the book that I've just done actually, but I won't for now. I like autobiographies. Okay. So I like Zlatan Ibrahimovic's book is really, really good. It's a bit old now, but I think that's probably one of the best autobiographies I've read. So
okay, Amazing. Night out or night in?
Listen, I'm a family man.
Yeah,
so, night in.
Okay, nice. Who has it easier, men or women?
Oh, men, definitely.
Yeah, good.
I don't mean it like, when I say definitely, I don't mean it in an arrogant way. It's just like,
it's just a fact.
You know how it does the structural way.
Yeah. I hate, bro. Sometimes I ask people and they be sweating.
I don't mean it in a negative way. Just, yeah.
Name a book you think everyone should read.
Lovely plug. Jack Leslie, The Line That Never Roared. Basically, it's about a footballer who played for a goal in the 1920s and 30s, and he was called up to England squad in 1925. But it was deselected due to the colour of his skin. So imagine you just had to call up, his name's on the team list, and then they've checked him out again. They're like, basically, don't want you. So they kind of deselected him and never played for his country, even though he was a top scorer in the country at the time, and all the papers were saying he was the best player in the country. So it's a super interesting book. If you get a chance to read it, it's by Matt Tiller. Super interesting about his journey and everything like that. So,
and what was your involvement in the book?
I wrote a bit of it, to be fair. I was more like an editorial consultant.
Yeah.
A lot of it stems from like a lot of like race issues and things like that. So Matt got on board just to kind of help with the kind of framing of certain things, basically. But no, it's a super interesting book because it's crazy that the first black player to play for England was in the 80s or 70s. I think Viv Anderson But yeah, like it should have been Jack Leslie, but it was
Wow.
taken away from him.
The Lion Who Roared.
The Lion Who Never Roared.
The Lion Who Never Roared, and is out now.
Yeah, it came out last month. It's doing well, to be fair. Doing well.
I'm gonna see if I can get a little affiliate link. Let me put this in the notes, right? Use code BIO10 for 0% off. Pay all the money for the book.
Yeah, come on, exactly. So yeah, so nice little plug there.
All right, lovely. And then final question: are you listening to any good podcasts?
Yeah, I listened to this one, to be fair.
Come on.
It's got some really good guests. Also, I like my football podcast as well. So, Talk of the Devils, so Athletic one. And yeah, there's like long form ones like that. One's called On the Judy. Like, he gets really good guests. And then obviously you got like the shits and gigs, quite funny.
Yeah.
And then obviously you got the usuals like high performance and Bible CEO. But it's mainly like the football ones are all like the kind of ones kind of within the culture, if that makes sense. So make that what you will, and people know the main podcast within that space, like Free Shots, Tequila, those kind of things. So, those ones, 90s Baby, etc. So just try and listen to what I can, really.
Okay, Rich, Rory, this has been such a good conversation. We do have a closing tradition on this podcast. So knowing what you know now, and with everything that you've been through, what advice would you give your 16-year-old self? And would you still be doing the same thing?
Just go harder in terms of I would still want to do what I was doing, if that makes sense. Obviously, I'll just do it even harder. Don't be shook to when I was younger, I was quite even though I did my own thing and I was bang at it and it's hey, I'm going to make it hook or by crook. At certain stages, I was still a bit shook to ask certain questions or hesitant or procrastinating with certain things. So just go at it harder, more intensity, and just build even more relationships than I've done now. I think that's what I'd say.
You built so many relationships, bro.
So have you, though. I think if you're just a people person, naturally, it happens. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
But if you can do it more, do it more. So,
this has been amazing. Where can people find you, bro?
So on Twitter, it's Richard Amofa. Instagram, Richard Amofa UK.
You'll see him going viral on Twitter a lot.
Silly, man. Just put stuff out there. But I mainly use Twitter. I should use Instagram a bit more. I'm on TikTok as well, Richard Amofa. Okay. And obviously LinkedIn, all that kind of stuff. But yeah.
All right, Rich, bro. This has been a sensational conversation, man.
Enjoyed it.
Guys, if you've made it to this point of the podcast, you know what to do. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, comment, at WMBFD Pod. This has been another episode of What My Best Friend Does. If you didn't know, now you know. Over and out.